Welcome into the Pick Six podcast. I am your host, Vince McKee. Tonight, a very special guest, Shane Scheckel, Northeast Ohio, born and raised. Shane, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. How are you doing today?
Hey, you know what? I'm very excited. This is a great way to kind of cap off what was kind of a long Wednesday. So it's going to be nice to escape from the daily grind of work and talk about a subject that I am so passionate about. And I would have to believe this is something that is on so many people's bucket lists. Visiting as many stadiums as they can. I am a diehard baseball fan. I love football too. Absolutely. Love them both. Yep. But baseball to me is one of the things that growing up as a kid, full disclosure to everybody out there, I am 40 years old. I will be 41 in a few months here. And just like Shane, I grew up with all the old stadiums. So it was like Camden Yards in 1992 kind of sprung what everything was going to look like moving forward. So just very exciting stuff. We're going to get to all that in a bit. So before we get to our pick six question here, I want to talk to you a little bit about you. Where did you grow up at?
Lifelong Lakewood resident until 26. Purchased my first home at 26 in the West Park area. Lived there for 16 years. Attended LHS, all Lakewood schools. And then just recently the famous slogan, bought a house in Strongsville. Yeah. So we've been there a little over a year. It's nice, different, quiet than Lakewood. A lot more quiet than Lakewood.
I believe it. My favorite memory of Lakewood, and ironically enough, it's coming up here in like 3 days, is the Holy War. St. Ignatius versus St. Edward. And you told me a funny story here, and I want you to tell it to the crowd, because to me, I think this is hilarious, about when a very young Shane Scheckel called off of work to go see a game.
Yeah, I was just
at that very stadium.
Yeah, at Lakewood High Stadium. Yeah, I was 18 and a half, maybe. 6 months into my what was career. Couldn't get a Friday, Saturday, Sunday off being the low man on a totem pole, yeah. So was stuck working all the Friday night, high school games my senior year, and finally it was coming down to the Lakewood Eds game. I had asked a month in advance, 3 weeks in advance, 2 weeks, all the way down to game time. They kept on telling me no. And finally I'm like, you know what? I'm calling off. 6 months in, there's a million jobs out there. That was my thought at 18. But they'll never know, right? So go ahead and go to the games. Actually, the same night in 1995, I believe, the same night the Tribe clinched and the economist raising the flag in center field photo. It was the same night as that. Went to the Lakewood Eds game. It's the only year in my 4 years that Lakewood beat Eds. So I guess what you do when you're a high schooler is you rush the field. Yep. And then what you don't know as a high schooler is you get caught on Fox 8 being caught on camera on the field. So needless to say, the next day was rather interesting at the workplace.
Okay, now this is audio only, fans, so I cannot describe how big this man is. Obviously, you've seen me. I am pushing 5'6" if I'm lucky. Shane, how tall are you?
I am 6'8", 312.
6'8", 312. So even if you took 50 pounds off of that, there's no way in the world anybody watching at home is going to miss a 6'8" guy on the field of a high school football game.
That cameraman definitely didn't miss me. To this day, he did not miss me.
I love it. And it's funny, too, that you still got caught because that was way before social media. Now, if something like that happened, everybody when you get up on Facebook and Twitter, I saw you. There's no way anybody in their right mind now, if you're ever going to call off of work, do not go to anything that might even remotely be on television.
Right. That's why it festered for that night, and then was the next day when I actually went into work because there was no social medias, at the time. Yeah, that was. I was sweating that day a little bit.
Yeah. Well, listen, I grew. One of my first jobs that I actually had for many years worked for Heinen's, and I was part of the local 880. And from what I recall, you got 17 points before you got fired. Luckily, I don't think I ever got past 2 or 3 points, but a call-off was only 1 point. So you had 17 to play with.
Yeah, I wasn't worried about that. I mean, I always went every day. I wasn't late. I had my mom hawking over me over that. So, so all that was all good, but I figured I could never get that game back. You're not in high school anymore. So I wish I would have done it a few other times, but I'm glad I did that one.
Oh, for sure. And it's funny, what a lot of people don't even realize, honestly, Shane, I think I might have told you this. When I was in high school, I went to one game as a freshman, one game as a sophomore, all 10 as a junior, only because my girlfriend was in the band.
Okay.
I was dating a girl, finally got a girlfriend that year. So I went to all 10 of those games, and then I went to one game my senior year. So to me, it's funny because people see me now like, oh, you're the big high school football guy. And it's like, listen, man, like if you would have knew me even 10 years ago, I couldn't have told you, and we could swear on this podcast, it's fine. I couldn't have told you jack shit about a single conference, team, history. I knew the Holy War for the only fact that my best friend went to St. Ignatius. And again, Lakewood Stadium would always host that game.
Yes, they would.
And it's funny because that's how this whole thing began right now, is thinking about that game in Lakewood Stadium. So wanted you to tell that story. But here's the other cool thing about me and Shane. We're very close in age. We're very close in sports, everything we love, basically. And I grew up in an era of nobody going to the Cleveland Indians games. And I'll say Indians because that's what they were. Now, you had a stadium, and correct me if I'm wrong, but for a baseball game, could get about 82,000 people in it. If you can imagine a stadium with about 82,000 deep at Municipal, and on a weeknight, they'd be lucky to draw 7,000 or 8,000. So we're actually going to start with the bonus question. I've never done this, but I want you to tell the fans, because a lot of them are much younger than us, unfortunately, about Picnic in the Park.
Right. So this is even before 94, 95,
Way
obviously.
before.
This is in the mid to late 80s and early 90s. They used to have an event, not all the time, and it wasn't really on a regular basis, but they used to call them picnics at the park. It was actually behind the fence in the stadium, and it was a couple hours before the game. You get food or whatever, but they always had Pierre's ice cream. And every time my mom would ask me, and it was few and far between because we had to pay for the rapid. And,
Oh, yeah.
you know, but back then, game tickets, we could sit in the outfield for $2.
Yep.
So for $4 and then the rapid, I mean, back then you're doing everything for under $10. It really worked out with a single mom.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so yeah, we'd go there. She'd get tickets for that. I think it was, I mean, I think they were $2, but she'd get freebies somehow or something. We'd go there, and there wouldn't be a ton of people. We're talking maybe 200 tops. But then next thing you know, it's you know, they start having food and ice cream and trying to eat as much ice cream as you could before you went to the game.
Yeah. I remember, too, they were so desperate for fans that they would let you bring in your own food. You couldn't bring alcohol, from what I remember, but you could bring, like, soda and food. We would bring in, like, bags of licorice. I forget what it was called. Oh, Twizzlers. So we'd bring in Twizzlers and peanuts and, like, Kentucky Fried Chicken. It was hysterical. Like, they were just desperate to get people in the stands.
Right, yeah. I think, especially with the no alcohol after nickel beer night, they probably weren't going to do anything like that.
Oh, yeah.
So that kind of turned into nightmares. But yeah, no, it was fun, especially being a little kid. You know, 46 now, so back then I was, you know, 6, 7, 8, 9. Elementary school, maybe the beginning stages of middle school. So it was a lot of fun. A treat for me, for sure.
Now, here's the other thing, too. Before we get to the questions, I want to talk about this, because a lot of people don't believe me when I tell them this story, and it's the 100% truth. Go back and do the research, everybody. When I was growing up, home games would be on Sports Channel, which my family was poor. We didn't have cable. I'm just flat out. We didn't have $2 to rub together, right? So all the away games were on free TV, and that's what we watched. WUAB 43 with Jack Corrigan and Mike Hegan.
That's right.
Excellent, by the way. Love them.
Yeah.
But that's all we ever saw.
Touch of ball time, right?
Yeah. So all I ever saw was the away jerseys. So for me, the big deal, you know, my dad would get free tickets from RTA a couple times a year, and that's how we were able to do it. So once or twice a year, we would go to the game, and I just remember thinking, like, this is cool. I get to see their stadium. I get to see their home uniforms.
Right.
And that's a big deal for a kid. So... Right. But a lot of people forget that, and I don't think it was until, I want to say, maybe 94 or 95 that finally switched. I think maybe the Jacobs Field era is what kicked it off, where you could watch, you know, home games on TV. But I'm telling you, fans, like, if you grew up without cable like I did, you were lucky to see half the games, and all of them were road games.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, I think the strike there in 94 had something to do with it, too. Yeah, I remember the same struggle, too. You had to watch on Channel 43, watch all the games, and if you knew a friend with cable, you tried and sneak over there for dinner and maybe catch a couple innings or something like that. But once it started getting good in 93, down in 93 and then 94, all that kind of started to change.
Yeah, even if you didn't like the kid, you went over to his house.
Right, yeah. Just peek through the window, whatever you got to do.
What was funny, too, is that the final series of 93, obviously, was a home series, and they put it on TV, and I was like, this is so cool.
Right.
You know? Cool.
Well, you're talking about an 82,000 seat stadium. It was full those 3 games.
Oh God, yeah.
Against Chicago White Sox.
Did you make any of those? Were you
I
there
did
by
not
chance?
go to any of them.
Me either.
Work did get a little bit of the way of that one, but I went to game 2 at Jacobs Field then. But yeah, you're talking about an old stadium. They sold seats in the bleachers for that series. The tickets were commemorative. That was the whole works. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember too. And we won't get on this subject because I could go all night. But I remember in '94 just how exciting it was.
Right.
It was a perfect storm, and incredible for me. Is we had off school, so Easter there was Easter Sunday. The next day was the first ever game at Jacobs Field. How freaking lucky are we that we're home to watch that?
Right.
Like, what are the odds?
Yeah.
Because that was back in the days where Easter you would have Easter, and then even if you went to public school like I did, you would still have that next week off. There was always Easter break. Now they have like spring break, and it's all weird. Yeah. But back then that's how it worked. So I want to ask you then, let's kind of get this started off. So obviously it's a bucket list thing for a lot of guys. I sure as hell know it was for me. And I've been able to knock off, I think, about 9 stadiums. Why did you decide, and football and baseball, why did you decide to start visiting stadiums? And what was there, was there a few dream ones that you wanted to make sure that you got to? Both old and new?
Well, really what decided it was to kind of kick it off here, going to Old Municipal Stadium. I mean, it wasn't a gem by any stretch. But again, as a 5, 6, 7-year-old, I mean, that's the coolest place you can go to as a kid. You know what I mean? You're sitting there playing with all your friends at the park, but then you get to go to this huge cathedral in your eyes at that age. It was a really cool experience. As far as it wasn't really a springboard really at that age. I had to be a few years older, but I definitely thought about it. And I don't know if you remember. Again, this is going to touch on the cable subject, but ESPN would partner with MasterCard, and they would show these commercials with the I think it was 2 young kids.
Oh no, yeah,
and they were going to Stadium 17, Stadium 24, whatever.
I did actually,
right. So I'm like looking at that. I'm like, well, I can't do it all in a year, obviously, but why can't I do that over? What about one a summer for 20 summers? And I'm thinking about this at 18, 19.
Sure.
By 40 I can have them all. Well, then they start, there's old ones and then they build new ones.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden that number isn't really 30 anymore. It's more like, 45, 50.
At least.
And then that's just baseball.
Right.
Because they were starting to phase out all those cookie cutter, circular, Three Rivers, Riverfront, all those stadiums. They were losing those for newer parks. So the list got more challenging. But I would say Cleveland going to the Tribe game as a little kid probably kicked off that aspiration of wanting to go to as many cities. Plus traveling too, I like to travel. It's kind of fun. But and the ones that you want to knock off on the list right away at that age.
At that age, yeah. In your brain at that moment.
After Cleveland Municipal Stadium, the next one I really wanted to go to was Wrigley.
Sure.
Just because of the history and all that. I knew Boston, those 2, and the Yankee Stadium, but, Boston, Wrigley, and the Yankee, those are really like the cathedrals back in the day. But just something about Wrigley with the ivy, and it's in a city something like Lakewood, So,
it's right in the middle of...
Right.
Yeah.
So it's so residential, and next thing you know, there's a little, little in today's standards, but there's just a ballpark right there. It's like, where did that come from?
Yep.
So yeah, It would have probably been Wrigley after that, even though that wasn't number 2. I mean, I've done some other ones, before I got to there. But
so, again, keeping in mind everybody out there that I'm 41 coming up here pretty soon. For me, I'd have to really think hard about this. But I'm pretty sure the only 3 stadiums remaining from when I was a kid, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Boston, Chicago, Toronto.
What about Oakland?
Oh, that's right. Thank you. Yes, Oakland, the dump.
That's the oldest one out there. Well,
have you been there?
The oldest one that needs to be redone. I would say Boston, Fenway, and Wrigley are. If they kept those forever, you're fine with me because they look great.
Yeah, and I remember the Tiger Stadium was big back in the day. I've been there, and we did not get out of the car. So this was...
Don't blame you.
No. This was me and my buddy back in 2002. So Comerica was already around. And by the way, I think Comerica is a beautiful park.
Yes.
I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah.
Not a Tigers fan by any stretch, but I like the park. But it's funny because we were going to Comerica and we're driving past the Tiger Stadium, which they're just slowly starting to tear it down. I'm like, And at first I was like, what is that? I'm like, holy crap! I'm like, that's Tiger Stadium,
Right.
you know. And again, it's cool because again, with me growing up, Cecil Fielder, Alan Trammell, I believe his name was, like
Right.
they had
Lou
talent.
Whitaker, yeah.
I think maybe even Jack Morris played for them at some
Yeah,
point.
Kirk Gibson.
Like the Tigers weren't the joke that they are now. They were actually a decent team.
Weren't they in the World Series in 84?
84.
Yeah,
So you look at that, but just how new and beautiful Comerica is. So the ones nearest to us, you know, if someone's like wants to take Shane's idea, and you could probably do 4 or 5 in a summer. I'm going to recommend these,
For sure.
and you tell me how you feel about them. Pittsburgh PNC.
It's definitely my top 5 for sure.
Easily.
Yeah, it's a real sharp ballpark. They didn't miss a beat with it. I guess if you're really comparing it to newer stadiums, the only thing, I'm not saying it's bad. It's just it's not as physically tall.
True.
As ours or whatever. But they nailed it spot on with the backdrop of downtown and one of their 45 yellow bridges that they have all over the city.
It's beautiful.
But yeah, it's a sharp park.
I hate the Steelers, but I'll tell you what, I love PNC Ballpark.
Yeah, it's a great place to watch games.
Okay, so Pittsburgh we both love. You just talked about Chicago. How about what's the other one? Detroit.
Comerica?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there when they actually had the strip down the middle from the pitcher's mound to the home plate. We went there relatively early, maybe year 2 or 3 of it being open. That was the first park, I believe, that had the gap in the upper deck, and I couldn't figure out why. And it started to become this trend. I mean, Cincinnati has it, San Diego has it. I mean, you know, there's another one I can't think of off the top of my head, but they have it too. There's like a missing gap in the upper deck, and I'm like, why wouldn't you just put seats there? Like but it's architectural, I guess, creativity. I don't know. But yeah, nice park. I still hesitant on taking Julie, my wife, to Detroit.
Day game, Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, Sunday day game, Saturday day game.
We're going home, Julie.
Yeah, a getaway day on Thursday day game, something.
Yeah,
definitely. But it's on her list too, so she has a pretty extensive list too.
I believe it. Now, you mentioned Cincinnati. I've been there as well. Kind of a cool story there. I worked for a company many years ago. I just started dating Emily, so we're talking like a good 16, 17 years ago. And they sent me to Cincinnati. I loved it. I had nothing to do. I'm not I was sitting in the hotel, and I was there for like a week in this little, really rundown hotel. And I'm like, what the hell am I going to do tonight? And like, again, I'm a huge baseball fan. This was in the summer of 06. So I don't know how new the ballpark was, the Great American Ballpark was, maybe 2 or 3 years old. Mm-hmm. But man, was it beautiful, and I loved it. The only thing I'll say, and I'm curious to get your opinion on this one, Cincinnati, the Great American Ballpark, had somewhat of a feel of a minor league park, like a AAA, a little bit bigger.
A little bit. A couple things with that park is, so PNC built right on one of the 3 rivers, right? They have splashdowns there. San Francisco has splashdowns there all the time. If they were going for that in Cincinnati, they needed to move that ballpark 50 feet closer to the river because it's tough to do.
Oh, yeah.
And then if you're not going to do that, they should have turned that ballpark 180 degrees around to face downtown Cincinnati to get that backdrop in there. It does play small. Again, that's one of the stadiums where there's a missing section in the upper deck. I don't know what that is. But yeah, it had a nice feel, but it also had, when I went there, home runs, the Steamboat Towers or one of those things.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was a good feel. It was, they had some theatrics there. A lot of red seats, so if you're a Red fan, you'll love that ballpark.
Oh, sure. I liked it. I really did. And, again, I said we didn't have a ton of money, so we didn't travel as a kid. But I remember watching on TV all the time with Three Rivers and Riverfront. And,
right.
And guys, trust me, even you high school football fans out there, you're spoiled with the turf. Because if you look back, go look at some baseball cards or some old videos. The turf that they use in the Houston Astrodome, the Three Rivers, the Vet, Riverfront, horrible. It was like freaking carpet.
Yeah, it was literally, the green carpet that you have in your enclosed sun porch in your back house, in your backyard. I mean, it was very minimal padding. If you fell,
like
you
a
felt
patio.
it.
Remember the crappy?
Patio carpet. If you fell, you felt it, and
ball would just roll forever,
and roll into the fence.
Yeah, exactly.
And made triples.
Man, I'll tell you though. So before we get to question 2, though, so those are some of the local parks, and Toronto too for me. I consider local, only about 5 hours away. Absolutely loved it. The Sky Dome, they had WrestleMania 6 there, WrestleMania 18 there, and for me, I just wanted to get there for that moment. It was amazing, just really incredible. But another one kind of before I move on here, though, another one, which is a good 8 hours away. So, again, you're going to want to plan this as a trip as opposed to an overnight. Me and Emily did it before we got married. We went to Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. I have to tell you, I loved it.
Right.
Absolutely beautiful park. Loved the city. I think I had 3 cheesesteaks while I was there. This is too. And it was Yingling. So this was back in 2010 before Yingling was in Ohio. And I know people again are probably, what the hell is he talking about?
Right.
But like Yingling was a PA only beer. So we went for everything. We went for the Yingling. We brought home cases of it, know. Because it's not like you gotta go through customs.
Made border dashes, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Beautiful park. I'm guessing you've been there?
Actually, so when I went to Philadelphia, it was in 1999.
Okay.
So Citizens Bank was not built yet. So I actually went to the vet.
That's actually kind of cooler.
So that was, again, very similar to Three Rivers, Riverfront, Busch, all the circular stadiums. The only thing that was unique about it, getting back to Cincy's cookie cutter stadium like that, was actually on top of a parking garage.
Yeah.
So you would park below the ballpark, and I'm like, just, when you're 12 and seeing that, it's just the weirdest thing, And in Philly, we actually sat right by an attendant, an usher, or whatever, and, striking up a conversation, or whatever. So you always hear it on the TV, wherever. If you're ever watching an Eagles game or a primetime game, they always brag about having a jail underneath. Underneath
all the drugs
underneath the vet. And so I asked the guy, I'm like, "Is there really a jail here?" And I don't know if he was just blowing smoke at me or whatever, but he did say yeah. But he also told me, in the same breath, he told me the rats weren't as big as I say they are. So I'm like, well, okay,
I think he was telling
that's
you
all
the
South
truth.
Philly, though. Yeah,
I think he was telling you the truth. I could see it.
I for Philly and their fans, yeah, for sure.
One thing too, I'll say about stadiums being underneath and weird ash structures where you're like, how's this possible? I remember, again, because everything relates back to wrestling, and I apologize.
No,
WrestleMania
I got
3,
a lot of wrestling friends.
Pontiac Silverdome, 93,000 people in the Pontiac Silverdome, and WWE, WWF shows it constantly, right?
Yeah.
So when we were going to the Palace of Auburn Hills for a Cavs-Pistons game, I'm like, can we please stop through Pontiac? I want to see the dome, thinking it's going to be this enormous, gigantic structure that I've seen on TV for all these years. It's underground!
Yeah.
You go in the parking lot, I'm like, what the hell? It looks like a 2-story house. It's so small.
Well, and now it's gone.
Yeah, they
got rid of it now. It's I had to your point right here. I had that same feel in Houston.
Okay, yeah, I heard about that too.
You see it. Browns Oilers. They were division games.
Massive,
right? So they always panned on top or whatever and showing the stadium, and then they would show the lights above or whatever from the inside.
Yeah.
So we drove by it, and I could definitely see, what is it? RNG Stadium, I think that's where the Titans play.
It is now, yeah.
So we saw that, and I'm sitting there trying to scan for this Astrodome, thinking, well, it's got to be bigger than this, whatever. And I'm looking, and it's actually half the size of this. I'm like, you guys called this like the 7th wonder of the world or whatever, and this new one that you had next one's 3 times the size. This seems massive. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah. It's wild, isn't it?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
You wouldn't know unless you went.
Right.
Or unless you knew someone who lived there who told you, like, hey, here's a scoop on this. Like,
right.
Your initial reaction was like, what the hell?
Right.
Yeah. So before we get to question number 2, because we could talk about question number 1 freaking all night long.
Right.
I have to ask you. I forgot all about Oakland. It's such a dump. The Coliseum, I completely forgot.
Yeah.
But across the bay is one of the nicest ballparks in baseball. Have you been to Pac Bell?
No.
Or whatever the hell they call it now.
No,
I don't even know.
I think Oracle Field or Oracle Park or something. That's going to actually probably answer one of your questions.
You need to put that on the list, my man.
Oh, it's definitely on the list. The only thing is that San Francisco is the most expensive city in the United States. And with 2 little ones...
Yeah.
Trying to budget that one in, it's going to be a little tough. Julie actually saw before COVID, and I believe before Faith, she saw, and I don't know if they still have this or not, she saw a all 5-park trip.
You told me.
In California. You would take a Anderson bus or a train or something.
Unbelievable.
And I didn't believe her at first because she said it was a week long.
Yeah,
7 days.
Petco.
Right.
Oakland, San Fran.
Anaheim, yeah, right.
Dodgers,
and right.
That's the other one I forgot, by the way, of when I was a kid.
Chevezarine?
Still around, yeah.
I
forgot.
Yeah. So I didn't believe her because how can they all be home? Even half of them be home, even if you're swapping.
Yeah,
Major
League Baseball doesn't do that.
Well,
normally
the thing is that even if you start in San Diego, they'll go up to San Francisco and then they'll come back and then go back
Okay.
So you were up and down. You weren't. It just wasn't a straight line in a week.
I gotcha.
That was a jagged up and down the coast for your 7 days, which is all right with me to get them all in. But
And you're gonna be worn out by the time
they
you
wanted
get home.
they wanted $2,000. I'm like, oh man, that's gonna have a lot to.
See, that's what we go through every year with the WrestleMania trip. Full disclosure again to the fans out there, the WrestleMania trip. Every year Emily's like, oh man, we could get tickets to the Hall of Fame, tickets to the WrestleMania Night 1, tickets to WrestleMania Night 2, because it's a 2-night thing now. But it's if we didn't have kids, it's doable.
You're all sure.
But a lot of things are doable.
Sure.
But like once you start having those kids, and me and Shane both know Catholic school tuition is not cheap.
No.
And then, multiple kids is less cheap. So, like, it's, you make these sacrifices. The one thing I wish I would have did, and please don't come over the table and strangle me here, but my best friend wanted to go to Yankee Stadium really, really bad, and he said it was that final season, which I think was either 08 or 09, I believe maybe 08, and he got us a really good deal. It was like a bus trip there, tickets. It was really cheap, and for whatever reason, I just didn't do it. And I'm kicking myself.
Yeah.
I should have, because now it's gone.
It's gone.
And now the Yankees, I don't know if they ever fixed this, but there's spots in that stadium you can't see the field.
Yes.
Like, what the hell's that?
Yes.
So what are you there for? The ambiance?
That's called bad architecture.
That's bull. Yeah,
bad architecture.
and they're
bad
charging
design.
you for those tickets. Not
You know,
letting
actually,
people sit there for free.
Jacob Field had that too.
Where at? When it started?
It's the kids' fun zone now.
Oh, really?
Yes,
I'm trying
it
to
is.
remember. Yeah, like lower?
It's
no, medium.
The mezzanine,
That's
but
right.
all the way down the line, yeah. That
forgot
was
about that.
one little flaw. They kind of shaved some of the club, and they try to fix the problem.
Well, moving on here, because again, we're 26 minutes in and one question deep. So
Gotcha.
which is my fault because I won't shut up. I love this subject, and when we met you, I knew within seconds. I'm like, this is a pretty good dude. But then you start talking about your trips, about how you like to go to these trips. I'm like, this is freaking sweet. So many questions to ask you. But this is cool too, because you're wearing a Cleveland Browns hoodie as you speak. I always wear my Cleveland stuff when I go on trips. I don't give a crap. Like, I'm from Cleveland. I'm wearing Cleveland. Bottom line.
That's the only way you can go.
What is the response towards you from opposing fans?
If we're talking baseball, it's pretty mild. It's, again, haven't been to Yankee Stadium. When I went to Boston, the Tribe wasn't playing, and when I went to Wrigley, the Tribe, it wasn't interleague. When I went to Chicago, Chicago might have been like the worst place, Comiskey. But yeah, I mean, nothing. Football's a different story. Probably the worst place you can go is probably Pittsburgh. Being a Browns fan in division, they let you hear about it.
Oh, sure.
And especially if they're up, which they have been for the last 20 years. Although maybe we're turning the tide here a little bit. I don't know. The only regret I have is COVID happening when we go to their place and beat them in a playoff game.
Yeah, barely anybody.
And only one Browns fan can go, and he must have been a Steeler scalper or something. I don't know how he got tickets, but he was able to get in.
The crazy thing about that too is that when we went, me and Emily, to the Philadelphia Stadium, Citizens Bank, they were playing the Mets. I did not, and Shane.
It's a rival.
Yeah, it is, boy. And I didn't know anything about. I mean, I know baseball, right?
Right.
But I didn't realize it was that deep.
Oh yeah.
Holy smokes! There was 9-year-old kids dropping the F-bomb, like swearing at opposing fans and just back and forth. I'm like,
well, Philly takes everything to hurt. I mean, they take their cheesesteaks to hurt. I mean, anything you do, they're number one.
And
and they'll let you know about it.
Oh yeah, New Jersey they weren't backing away, which is the Mets. Mets in New Jersey, so they're just going back and forth, back and forth. I'm like, holy smokes, right?
One bridge takes you to the border of both.
Don't try to pump your own gas in New Jersey, fans.
That's right.
They won't let you.
So
the other cool story I want to tell you super quick before we move on is Toronto. Again, when we went to Toronto, they were so nice. Unbelievably nice. So we went for a Blue Jays game. I think they were playing the Red Sox. I don't remember. But it was the same night as the Cavs clinching. This was in 2016, same year the Cavs won it all. Cavs clinched in Toronto, Game 6. I'm with my buddies, and I have a Cavs shirt on, and I'm like, I don't care. So like people are like congratulating us all night long, and then I watched the fourth quarter of that game because the baseball game let out. I watched the fourth quarter of that game in what they call Jurassic Park, which is that giant thing outside the stadium. And my friends were just wimps. Like, no, you're going to get punched. I'm like, no, screw it. They didn't go with me. They, like, stood, like, 100 feet away. I'm like, I want to experience
They had
this.
your back way back, right?
Yeah, right. Jerks. So, like, I'm standing in the mass of these people, and I didn't care. And, like, and the people were so nice and stuff. So, I got to shout out Toronto for that. What is, because, my God, I love food. Probably way too much. What is the best city to tailgate in? And you're fresh off a trip to Carolina, a couple years ago, Kansas City. I know you got to have a couple good ones out there.
You know, I saw this question earlier. To tell you the truth, right here.
Interesting.
Right here. There's nowhere that comes close that I've been to.
What was it? Because of COVID in Kansas City that no one was out doing it?
Well, yeah, you got to think that they only had 25,000 fans, so that's you're talking a fourth, a fifth of the capacity. Plus, that's the first time the Browns have went in almost 20 years.
Right.
It really was a split crowd. You're talking 50-50.
Oh, you can see on TV.
Well, yeah, we overtook the hotel. I mean, there was plenty of Browns fans. But they kind of frown about the tailgating with the COVID. You're kind of conquering and
well, what about Carolina last week or 2 weeks ago?
Carolina, for the opener.
Carolina barbecue.
Yeah, there was tailgating there. Yeah, it's just I've replaced tailgates, but if you're talking the best, there's no better place than here. We're number one. I mean, you can see the aerial and that's just the muni lot.
Yeah.
Now think about that. You're seeing this aerial of all these cars, all these buses, and that's an aerial, and that's one spot.
True. That is literally one spot.
We party on 3 spots here in Cleveland. We don't party in the lake, but we party on the other 3 spots. There's other places. There's the pit on the west side. There's the under the bridge, under the 2 bridge. There's the people partying in the garages. They're lighting the grills. They're firing up the grills, and they're the 3rd floor down. I mean, the smoke's got to go somewhere. You know what I mean?
True.
Cleveland, I would say for sure. Cincinnati, I didn't see a whole lot of tailgating. Pittsburgh, they tailgate under all them yellow bridges. That's what they do.
Chicago, I saw quite a bit. And I was there for a Cubs game.
For tailgating? No, we always. It's such a little city, and then there's a million bars there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, Yankees. We went Yankees for wings.
Yeah,
right beforehand, which was good.
Yeah. I mean, it was just we went to the Cubby Bear there. I mean, it's a little party at any one of these little establishments all around this ballpark, and the subway runs right next door. I mean, the transportation's super easy.
Now, fans, you could find Shane on Facebook. I'm sure if you reach out to him, he would love to hear from all the fans out there. And this is the question you're going to want to write down and listen to everything he has to say. They have these travel services all the time that send you to Las Vegas and send you to Disney World and put you on cruises. They literally need to have something called the Shane Scheckel Stadium Travel Service because of this next question. Shane, what factors go into a trip, considering the car, the airplane, the hotel, etc.?
Well, the first factor obviously is going to be affordability and the financial aspect. But there's some ways to curb that too. We say no to a bunch of other things. We don't do very many bar nights nowadays. 2 kids. Yeah. So you save $100 every Friday night. By the end of the year, you're able to go somewhere. You know what I mean?
True. Yeah.
So.
As I'm working 16 straight Friday nights there in the fall.
Right.
Yeah, I know it very well.
So cost is obviously the number one thing. I personally, being a huge sports fan, and I love traveling in September. Everybody goes, why September? Baseball's the best in June and July. No. Because if you go to a city that has both, you can double dip.
Yep.
And that's what I want to go to both of them if I can.
Hell yeah.
Maybe I can go to both and only stay 3 nights.
Yep.
Yeah. Or do a Thursday, and then the team comes home for a Friday baseball series. Go to a Thursday night NFL game, and so we try and do stuff like that.
Have you ever flown, or has it all been drive?
No, we flew to. The wife and I have flown to probably 85 to 90% of them. I think we've only driven 2, or maybe 3.
I don't know. I thought you drove to Carolina. My fault.
We did drive to Carolina.
Okay.
But, I mean, we flew to Seattle, San Diego, Phoenix, Denver, St. Louis. I mean, all those West Coast.
Rocky State. I forgot to ask you. What was that like? Coors Field.
Well,
Can you breathe up there?
I took the wife to the Mile High Club. That was kind of cool. There's actually a purple row of seats in the upper deck that'll indicate that it's you're 1 mile up in the air.
That's awesome.
Usually, though, as far as like... we try not to rent a car unless, Denver you have to.
Yeah.
Although we took their train and it was much longer, much more inconvenient, and we didn't do as much. like we wanted to, but
Right.
we still went to the game. But she wanted to hit a couple other spots, and unfortunately, it didn't work. We try to stay as close to wherever we're going as possible and walk everywhere, if possible. Some places are tough to do that. Denver was one of them. The way I look at it is I'll pay, $20, $30, $40, $50 more for a room and walk it,
Yeah.
and save that money towards that car.
Completely agreed. Absolutely.
So that's money that's in your pocket. Airfare, scan. I mean, there's so many apps out there. Scan, look, and my little cousin told me some of the best advice, and I didn't believe her, but it's true. It's very difficult to do it this way if you're really planning and purchasing tickets and all that. But fly last minute.
Yeah,
because they try to.
They're desperate.
They want you on the plane.
Oh yeah,
they'll sell it to you. We went to Baltimore.
Every empty seat is money lost.
Right, we went to Baltimore for $44.
That's amazing.
That's round trip. Her and I there and back. That
is the one.
I've had a worse time at a gas station for more than $44
recently.
You know what I mean? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
shit, I drive an hour to work every day. Trust me, you have to explain.
And again, we're not staying at the Ritz-Carlton everywhere we go, but we're also not staying at the Base Motel either. I mean, we're something middle of the road, Holiday Inn Express or something. Something that's $100 a night. You're staying a couple nights. It's at the end of the day, it's not that killer. I don't really, not yet. And I know the kids are chiming. The big family vacation. We haven't done that yet, and I'm sure that's coming. Mm-hmm. So. These are little mom and dad escape for the weekends.
Don't feel bad, my man. We haven't either. We took them to Legoland this past year,
right?
And man, they had a blast. And then my brother, give him credit, he picked up the tab of what was it, Put in Bay for like 3 nights.
Right.
He got the room. I paid for the food. We made it work, and that was cheap. But yeah, as far as like that big McKee family vacation,
right,
has not happened.
Yeah, no, neither not yet.
And I just say, I have a friend, they go to Disney World, he's got season tickets. I mean, they go like 3 times a year. Like, Jesus.
I'm pretty anti-Disney.
I've never been there.
I'm pretty anti-Disney.
Yeah, but it was
I don't
school
like
field
people
trip.
that want to make a boatload of money off of little kids. You know what I mean? It's supposed to be fun for the little kids, but yet mom and dad get hammered for a $25 pop.
Yeah.
Like,
and to that extent, I got to say this too. That's the same reason why I don't cover Little League. We don't do AAU sports. We are strictly high school and up.
Sure.
And I was contacted. I've been trust me, Shane, it happens all the time. Hey, come to this PB football game. Come to this. Come to that. I did 2 Little League games when I first started Keon Sports, broadcasted them, because I love the Little League World Series. I watch it. So I was like, oh, it could be like that. It was miserable. And instantly you get parents complaining and coaches. Anybody who tries to make a buck off a kid, you're sick in the head. I'm sorry.
That's not.
Unless you're a teacher or a personal trainer, you're teaching them how to play basketball better or whatever it is, like, that's a different story for a different day. All right, here we go. This, to me, I cannot wait to hear this answer. Now, you could choose new, you could choose old. I do not care. What are the top 5 baseball stadiums you have ever visited and why?
Okay, there will not be a particular order.
No, it's fine.
But I do have 5. Fenway I thought was awesome. It was, especially being on top of the Green Monster for a couple innings, it was probably one of the best experiences I've ever had. Total cool people, definitely have the accent for sure. You, even if you were blind and could hear, you know you're in Boston for sure. Fenway, I would say PNC for sure.
Cool.
I like our place a lot though too.
Oh yeah.
I like our place. I like our place a lot. Yeah. I mean,
still call it the Jake?
Absolutely.
Same here.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I just think that there's some new ones out there, and I think ours are just as good, if not better. Safeco was crazy cool.
I'd love to see it.
The scene, the sight line, just everything. Everything about Seattle was. Well, we always talk about we want to go back, but we just can't afford it.
2 questions on that one.
Yeah.
Did it rain while you were there?
It misted one day at the baseball game. Misted, not rained.
Okay.
And they did have the roof closed, but the Monday before, the night before, they had it wide open. It was beautiful. It was 75 and sunny. It was you could, if you didn't know anybody, you were in San Diego.
Question number 2: did you have coffee while you were there?
So I'm not a coffee drinker, but the wife is a huge coffee drinker. Fun fact about Seattle, and I don't know how this makes business sense. I'm going to tell you they have a Starbucks in every corner, right?
Yeah.
And you're thinking, oh, okay, there's a lot of Starbucks. No, there's a Starbucks in every corner. It's every single corner. I saw one corner that had a Seattle's best, and I didn't see anybody in there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know what that says. They're there.
I drink coffee like a fiend, but I don't drink Starbucks. They're too expensive.
They're in the airport. I mean, if the taxi drivers could have one in there, they'd have one. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. And then I would say number 5, or the 5th one would probably be Petco.
San Diego.
Yeah, it was just a different feel there. You had a California feel, but not the California arrogance.
Right.
Just a fun town. Definitely a military presence there for sure. But it was just fun. The weather's perfect. I mean, it's perfect. Like it's sunny but you're not roasting. There's no humidity, but then you're not freezing. At night when the sun dips down you might need a hoodie, but it's refreshing. It's it's awesome when the game starts and the sun's out and everybody's having a good time. And then by the 8th, 9th inning, the sun's down, but it's still like a pleasant. It's not like the North where you're looking to buy a parka at the team shop.
Yeah. Do you remember on that subject? Do you remember Qualcomm Stadium where the Chargers played?
Yeah, I've never been there, but I absolutely do know where it is.
See, I think it's really cool that you were at Arrowhead. Yeah, I'm not some massive Chiefs fan by any stretch. I like Patrick Mahomes, I do, but it's just cool. Like the Sea of Red and all that. Yeah, I just wish you could have went there non-COVID.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It would have been nice. Unique stadium. They share the park with Kaufman. One big, huge parking lot. Fans were really cool there for a playoff game, but they're coming off a Super Bowl win or whatever, so
yeah,
they didn't have anything to lose.
I tell you what, man, and the Browns almost won that game. You go back and look at that play with Higgins. Holy smokes. That's got to be the most BS rules in football with that ball going out of the end zone. That just all of it's stupid. But they were there in the end.
Real quick, you can't give up a 3rd and 16 to a backup quarterback either. That'll get you a loss every time.
Especially a Michigan alum. On top of that, double salt in the wound.
That's the life.
We're gonna take an immediate left turn. Immediately, this has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Okay.
But you brought his name up, Chad Henne.
No, I just brought up the backup quarterback. It could be any team's backup quarterback. But sure, let's talk about Chad Henne.
Good. No, not so much him, but did you have to work? Were you around? What are your memories of the game? Ohio State, Michigan, both undefeated, 06, Saturday afternoon, actually into the evening. Do you remember even watching that game? Ohio State, Michigan. I mean,
absolutely.
The game.
Oh, that was Ohio's World Series. That was Ohio's Super Bowl.
That was the greatest.
Yeah.
It was and it was like 52-45. It was nuts.
Let me ask you this question, too.
Sure.
How many other games have been with that team up north? How many other games have been primetime?
I don't think any.
Right.
I think that's the only one that ever did that.
1 versus 2.
Yeah. And here's the crazy thing, too. And I've always said I should have a podcast called We'll Get to It Some Other Time. Because I have so many, as I talk, all these other things flood in my mind. I'm like, we'll get to it some other time. But no, listen to this, fans. Like, this was what bit Ohio State in the ass because they beat the team up north, right? Both undefeated, and everybody said, okay, are we going to play them again in the national championship? It was undecided. Who were they going to play? And when the word came down, we're going to play Florida. And they thought it was going to be this easy win. Florida, a hidden fact everybody always forgets because everybody loves Tim Tebow, and so do I. I like him as a person. But it was, Tim Tebow, we're going to kick his ass. Well, people forget, he wasn't even the starting quarterback. It was Chris Leak.
Right.
So, and Ohio State got their ass kicked, and just handed to them in that game. Yep. Just crazy. I don't even know how we got. The backup quarterback of Kansas City. But yeah, that to me, and me and Emily were together about 6 months. I went to go visit her at Toledo. I remember watching that in her apartment, and just the excitement, the feel of that. And we have a little bit of time, so I might as well ask you: have you ever been to the shoot? I have to believe yes.
Yes. Yes. 3 concerts and also one Buckeye game.
Do you
saw Nebraska, and for the life of me, I don't know what fan could wear a corn on the cob on their head.
Nah. That's what time we got here. All right, we got a little bit of time left. Okay, so on that subject, and then we'll have one more question to wrap this up. But on that subject, growing up as a kid, this is another massive left turn. Growing up as a kid, fans, and Shane, you let me know if you remember this. College football, the best teams were, believe it or not, Notre Dame, the University of Miami, Nebraska, Florida State, Florida, Ohio State. You could count on those 6, right? Now it's, and I'm sorry, Tennessee. Tennessee was always really good. Now it's like the other day I was watching this game, Tennessee and Florida, and
Great game.
both ranked hell of a game last Saturday.
Great game.
And I'm like, man, this is what I grew up with. I'm like, Tennessee used to be a powerhouse.
Right.
Even before Peyton Manning.
Right.
You know, you could count on Tennessee, and then Notre Dame used to be really good. And like I said, Florida State. I'm going to throw another game at you real quick before we get to the last question. This would have been, let's see, I was in 5th grade, so about 93-ish. 1993, 6th grade. 1993, Florida State's undefeated. Notre Dame is undefeated. Towards the tail end of the season, you had Charlie Ward playing for Florida State. He's going for the Heisman.
Right.
Kind of, and I believe, Notre Dame wins it in the end. Do you kind of remember that game? Because that was another big deal.
Yeah, Charlie Ward he did win the Heisman, didn't he?
Yeah, and then he went to play basketball for the Knicks.
Yeah,
and then,
but he was for Florida State. He was great.
Yeah,
kind of also for me. Wouldn't say him per se, but he, along with maybe a couple others, probably kicked off that running quarterback.
Yep.
That Randall Cunningham.
Tommy Frazier, Nebraska.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, God rest his soul.
Yeah.
The other crazy thing, too, looking back at all that, is there was a guy that I loved, right? His name was Jake Plummer, and he went to Arizona State, Jake the Snake, and he was so good. Then he got drafted by, was it Arizona? No, he got drafted by Arizona, and then played for Denver. I don't know if I have this backwards or not, but no, I think I'm right.
Arizona.
Got Cardinals and then went to Denver, and I'm a big Broncos fan. And I was like, wow, this is great. We got Jake the Snake, right? But then they got Cutler, and it didn't even matter. But the thing about that is that's the kind of back fans, too, before there was playoffs. So it was like you went to a bowl game.
Right.
You going into that bowl game, if you had 1 loss or 0 losses, you had a legit chance at a national championship.
Right.
And then it would still come down to the polls. So that was a year where Ohio State was undefeated all year long, as usual under John Cooper, loses to Michigan, goes and beats Arizona State in what would have been that was the Rose Bowl because it was Pac-10, Big Ten. And but Florida played Florida State for the national championship, and I believe Florida won with Danny Werfel and all that stuff. But just crazy times there. All right, last question for you here. Which stadiums have you not visited? And I'm going to throw in football too. So baseball or football, either one. No limit. You can name me 1. You can name me 100. What stadiums do you really want to go to? What is on that bucket list?
My bucket list is definitely Pac-Bell, Oracle Park, and San Francisco. That's number 1 easily. I don't know how I'm going to finagle that one. I might need to hit a scratch off or something to help me out. But I gotta try and figure that out with the wife. I don't know if we could take the 2 kids there too. It's super expensive. We looked just playing around one time. We looked and the hotel was like $1,200 for like 3 days. I'm like, there's just no way. Target Field division game for the Tribe. Just looks sharp.
I'd like to check that out too.
They got their downtown as a part of the backdrop too. I think it's a sharp park. I haven't been at Sky Dome. Wouldn't mind going up there, but there was up until yesterday, the day before, they dropped COVID restrictions for
Toronto,
Canada.
Yeah,
so now people that like Kyrie Irving's can play in Canada now.
Listen, can I just tell you, you're gonna need 2 scratch-offs for that one. And you think I'm nuts because it's only a 5-hour drive, but my God, is Toronto expensive? Like, holy crap!
Yeah, I've heard that too. Well, that literally might be a day trip.
It's so much fun though.
Hit a 1:00 game and then just come back.
You could.
San Fran, you're gonna have to. I would like to try and double dip, triple dip somewhere.
You gotta fly.
Yeah, for sure. But be kind of in and out of San Fran, kind of in and out of LA, and then hit Oakland somewhere if they're home. But that's a tough ask to have 4 teams in a relatively smaller area. All be home within a few days.
Well, let me ask you this too, and this is not me trying to sound like a big shot. I promise. But I haven't had to pay for a ticket for something in forever.
That definitely doesn't sound like a big shot to me.
How much is... Sorry. And I didn't mean it like that, guys. Like, that's not what I mean.
Definitely doesn't sound like a big shot at all.
No, but seriously. Because, the Browns credentialed free. Cavs now credentialed free. But how... Legit, though. How much is it to go to a football game nowadays?
So, speaking off of the most recent Carolina trip we took, we did drag our feet as well as in Arrowhead when the Browns went to that playoff game. We dragged our feet and didn't buy tickets till Thursday. This last time, we bought them 2 or 3 weeks beforehand. I had a buddy of mine spend $65 to sit the last row in upper deck.
That's it?
That's it, per ticket. But he got them as soon as they went on sale.
Really?
We got them maybe 2 to 3 weeks beforehand, somewhere along those lines. We paid $220 a ticket.
Okay, well, jeez. Well,
but for me,
that's not bad,
there
though.
was a lot going on. I mean, you had Baker playing against the Browns, week 1. Even we didn't have our quarterback. Plus, I have some friends that live down there too.
Actually, I would do it.
It was a lot of fun.
That's not bad.
It was a lot of fun. The hotel was super cheap.
Plus, we've all lived in a den the last 2.5 years. So,
Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, that's just it too. I mean, I'm not counting stimulus money, but money that hopefully people were sitting on a little bit here as we're releasing, I like to call it, back into the public.
Yeah, mine's right there. Fence.
Yeah,
fence,
there
deck.
you go. It looks beautiful. Looks beautiful.
Thanks, bud. I appreciate it.
As far as football goes, I would say Lambeau.
Oh yeah.
Lambeau would probably be
Soldier.
number one. Soldier, I better go soon. I heard they got approved.
They're gonna do something with it. They're gonna tear it down completely and build something new where they're gonna
they can't
put a dome.
They can't redo it again. I mean, how many redos is that place gonna have?
I don't know.
Soldier, sure. I mean, that'll be an easy trip. Maybe not a day trip, but it won't be so expensive.
I got one for you. You're gonna think I'm crazy because I could care less about the Buccaneers. I just want to see the pirate ship.
Yeah,
I just want to see the pirate ship.
Yeah, sure. I actually now that we have Hurricane Ian in our presence.
Yeah.
Our Florida, our Alligator Alley trip got washed out by a hurricane. I believe it was Dorian. A couple years back, 3 years back. Mm-hmm. We were going to do I believe it was the Miami to Tampa trip. I think that's how the home games worked out. And the hurricane came, and it was the day before, and I told the wife to just change it. I'm like, if it's a wreck, if we can't get through, if everything's blocked down, I'm like, they're already at sea level as it is. If they're flooded, I'm like, so we just went to Vegas.
Cool. All right. We got a little bit of time left to kill. I don't know if they're home yet or not. Again, fans, our wives are getting ice cream with the kids.
Mally's Chocolates, who doesn't love it?
Got a fun one here for you, man. Got a fun one for you. If you could bring back one logo and you had to choose between the New England Patriots, the guy kneeling over the ball about to snap it, or one that I loved, the Houston Oilers.
With the Oiler Tower?
Yes. Which one are you bringing back?
Can I say neither?
Okay, we'll give you a third.
Can we throw the
Tampa Bay?
Yeah, okay.
Took the words out of my mouth.
Okay. I'll take the Tampa Bay.
The creamsicles?
Yeah. Oh, come on. It's orange.
You
gotta love it.
I'll tell you, it was a crap game on Monday night with the Cowboys and the Giants, but I love when the Giants wear those throwbacks, where they had the Giants across the helmet, like the word Giants.
The word Giants.
The old school.
I actually like the Jets one now instead of the white with the touch of green. Now they're all green with the jet in there.
Yeah.
Because that reminds me of that Browns playoff game where double overtime we took care of them.
Yeah. Man, that's my earliest memory of football. My earliest memory. I was 4.
I booked out of karate and ran up the street to where we were living at the time and caught the second, third, and fourth quarter, and then from there on, my mom wanted to watch all these programs, and I'm like, no, I gotta finish watching this game.
I don't know how much you like to read, and I hate giving people books because I feel like when I give people one of my books, it makes it seem like I'm forcing them to read it. But I would love to give you this book I have about the Browns from 85 through 95 when they moved.
Yeah.
I met with all the players, like Reggie Langhorne.
Sure.
I think you get a kick out of it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those guys talk about those games. They talk about playing Denver, and then the trips to Denver.
Yeah.
And then, Dan Fike told me one time, I used to work at Rite Aid when I was in high school, right up the street there. And Dan Fike came in, and we would always bullshit about the Browns and sports. And he was like, when we would go to Denver, he's like, it was so dry. He goes, I would have these mounds of big red bubble gum,
right,
and have to chew the big red one around the field just to get the saliva going, and not dry mouth and everything else that goes on.
If you ever watch the rotation of those games, it's amazing how many guys, like they'll pan in on, like in today's game, they'll pan in on Miles and he's on the sideline. Well, he's on the sideline in the fourth quarter. He's gasping for win there a little bit because he's played every snap up until the fourth quarter.
Snaps.
Back in those playoff games, especially in the wintertime, those guys rotating every other play.
Yeah.
So Elway had a different look almost every single time.
The thing about it was when he got sacked, and I can never pronounce the guy's name who sacked him, but on the drive, I thought that was it. I'm like, 3rd and 16, here we go. Yeah. Super Bowl, and then bam. And it's funny now with me being a big Broncos fan, and everybody's always like, how the hell are you a Broncos fan? And by the way, I might as well tell the story, I love their helmets. And I'm a little boy. I'm 4 or 5 years old, 6 years old. And I love that classic D, the light blue, and the fact that I just liked them. And it was like, now it's like a team beats our ass or heartbreaks us. I never want to say, I hate them. I'll tell you right now, I hate the Golden State Warriors. Screw them. Like when they won the championship this year.
I don't know. Denver, they got that guy wearing a barrel to the game. I mean, it's kind of a turnoff. You know what I mean?
I don't know what it is about the Denver Broncos. As a kid, I just always liked them, and then it stuck. And then what people, really forget is that the 3 years the Browns were gone, the Broncos won the Super Bowl twice, 2 years in a row. Right. And again, it was this feel-good story. And please, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure John Elway and Peyton Manning are the only 2 quarterbacks to ever win a Super Bowl and leave. Like, walk off. Like, retire. Right? If there's somebody I'm glaringly missing, I apologize, but I don't think so.
Oh, man.
And the fact they both did it for Denver is a rarity in itself.
They both did it for Denver, yeah. Boy, to win a Super Bowl and leave, I'd have to think about that one. It wasn't on my pre-drawn.
Brady, that's all right. Brady should have did it. If Brady would have retired 2 years ago when they beat the crap out of Kansas City, I don't think anybody would have blamed him.
No, I don't. But here's the thing: he comes back and he led the league in almost everything last year.
Yeah, but now he's possibly going through a divorce. I mean, like, when's enough enough, man?
Yeah.
I bet I'm willing to bet Giselle probably makes more than he does, and obviously they have kids.
I think Giselle made more than he did from day one. Supermodels don't mess around.
That's funny. All right, that will do it for now, guys. We had a lot of fun. Shane stuck with me again, and like I said, I think he will answer any of your questions. Is it cool? Yeah, on Facebook, if someone contacts you, one of our fans, contact him, man. I mean, don't try to plan that next trip by yourself if you've never done it before. This guy, he will definitely help you. So for Shane, I want to thank him for his time. Looks like as I'm checking the clock here, I'm about to be on with Cole here in about a half an hour for the NFL Prediction Podcast. Make sure you check us out there as well. For Shane Scheckel, I am Vince McKee. Thank you for listening.